I've been diving deeper and deeper into the lore of League of Legends as I've been discovering, playing the game, and watching some cool lore videos. And there is some talk, and I don't actually know if it's going to happen. Is Riot's MMO ever going to come out? I googled after this that it might come out in like the year 2006, 2026, 2026. Is that going to happen? You guys think? I think my conclusion is there's a lot of lore available to be drawn from. Necrit made a video called "The World of Riot's MMO is already done." Let's go and watch it.
In the past, MMOs were regarded as the godfathers of games. They were the peak of what developers could accomplish. Even though, looking back, that's a fairly subjective thing to say. Everyone knew MMOs had the power to create cult following, but also everyone knew making MMOs was hard. On average, an MMO has to spend at least 6 years in the baking before it can get anywhere near being good.
That's crazy.
But that didn't stop companies from jumping onto the bandwagon anyway. And soon we could see dozens of new MMOs,
Warhammer
all
Online,
releasing in 2000.
Warhammer Online, Lord of the Rings Online. I wish I tried this. Is this still playable? Because I like the Lotter universe, but I never played this. I wonder if it's good.
2008, all being called the WoW killers. Spoiler alert,
yeah.
none of them did that.
None of them did.
And unfortunately, we can feel the ripple effects even now. It got to a point where every time a new MMO is announced, we all think the same thing. Oh. Anyway, when you're working on an MMO, you have to respect 3 pillars. Gameplay is king, social interactions matter, and the world setting is important.
Yeah.
When Riot announced their MMO, it became clear that 2 of the pillars are being respected, and the third one is already done. When it comes to the gameplay, it is currently in the hands of Ghostcrawler, someone who's been working on WoW during its best times, and someone who got a reputation for hating boomkins and loving mages. When it comes to the social interactions, it is a dance between...
He quit? So he was in charge of the Riot MMO, and he quit. Let me see. Why did Ghostcrawler leave Riot? Street left Riot Games because of personal and professional reasons, citing specifically he's aiming to be closer to his remaining family. Since his announcement, Greg has shared he's starting a new remote game company that's working on an MMO or something very MMO-like. Yeah. I also... I always see these industry professionals, they go, they make a decision to go closer to family until their next project they're actually excited about is coming out. It's like, yeah, you know, I'm leaving Blizzard. I just feel like I haven't spent enough time with my family these last 35 years. So I'm leaving Blizzard and, and then like 6 months later, they're like, I've got an exciting new project. I've made my own board game. I've made a new card game. It's like, wow, that family thing really didn't work for long, huh? Okay, cool. But of course, I don't really know what happened here.
In the developers and the players. A dev can guide players towards social interactions. Or they can annihilate them. And after that, the players usually...
Is that the quest finder?
Or they can annihilate...
yeah. I played World of Warcraft like a few years ago, and all those stories about people gathering in a certain area to go to some kind of epic dungeon together, for which there was a bit of a travel time, and you would take that trip together just to do like one raid. That wasn't happening anymore. I played this, and of course a lot of ex-WoW or current WoW players were watching me play World of Warcraft. I had like 3,500 live viewers for my first WoW stream, and my first time playing it. And I started playing this dungeon raid thing, so I just had like a few choices. I could go to various different epic locations, but it instantly transported me there. And the best thing was, I didn't even have to stop what I was doing. It was just like Dota 2's client, where you can be inside a replay or doing some other questing. And then once it's ready, once it found your group, once the matchmaking is complete, it would just teleport you in the dungeon. I had no idea what I was doing in that dungeon. How I got there, obviously, it was teleportation. I don't know any of the lore prefacing it. Definitely didn't talk to any of the other members in the team. First thing that happened, I start reading what the NPC is saying, the story. right? I'm like, okay, we're in this dungeon because XYZ, and you need to collect X and so. Okay. Then I look around. All of my raid mates are gone. I start walking down a tunnel, and like a few seconds after I was done reading and start walking, the dungeon was complete. They did it. They finished. And I didn't see anything. And I got my reward, and I got planted back into the wilderness where I was.
Annihilate them. And after that, the players usually find their own fun inside the MMO. From that point on, the devs should do everything in their power to support the players having fun in their own way. And finally, when it comes to the world of an MMO, in Riot's case, it's done. And it's been finished for quite a few years now. In fact, the world of Riot's MMO is in such a good state. They already have the continents, the zones, the cultures and the races.
True.
And to a lesser degree, every zone already has its own storyline. Now of course, unless you follow the lore of League of Legends, you wouldn't know about this. And that's why I decided to make this video. I want to show you all the zones we are going to see in the MMO and what sorts of quests we are going to do there.
Okay.
So, for the purpose of this video, I will assume you have no idea what League of Legends is about. You have no idea what the universe is about, but you like MMOs, your hairline is receding, and you have a crippling fear of Nintendo 64 controllers. To which I might add, why do you think I'm wearing hats? But now, without further ado, let's have a look at all the zones in Riot's MMO. This is Runeterra, the world of League of Legends.
It might be an Asmongold shoutout, possibly. I imagine he probably watched this video too.
Right now, the world is separated into 10 main regions. But these 10 regions don't cover all the land on the map, so there are some mini-zones in between them. And the lore already revealed that there is gonna be another continent further to the east. That definitely sounds like a future expansion to me. In fact, it would be foolish to release all of these regions at launch. You can easily turn half of these into separate expansions.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people already know and love these regions, the hype behind these expansions would be big.
True.
With that said, I know a lot of you would like to play as Shurimans or Ionians. And now you may be cursing me for suggesting that these would be expansions. But the lore can justify
Riot's like, hire this guy.
giving you these nations as playable races without having their regions. I'll show you how Riot can pull this off in a bit. First, let's talk about the regions Riot's MMO has to start with. The Northern Continent. This entire continent is called Valoran. Not Valorant, Valoran. And this is where the absolute core of this world is. The two main regions here are Demacia and Noxus. They are the two big rivals equivalent to the Horde and the Alliance.
Wait, which one's the Horde? Noxus, I guess. Demacia is humans, is Alliance.
While I would like to say that Demacia is your classic normie human region, it's not really true. Runeterra doesn't really have a normal place. There is something cool happening in every region.
But how do I know which guys are the good ones? Who are the good guys? Like, who are just pure angelic nobility that I can just follow for a good moral compass? No one.
And Demacia has racism. Okay, maybe not racism, because Demacia doesn't mind Yordles or Minotaurs, but they really hate mages. That's because in the past, their rivals almost annihilated half of the world using magic. And so Demacia was built inside a magic-absorbing forest. Therefore, Demacia is a really cool place where you can hide from magic. When it comes to the visuals of the zone, you can see a lot of lush fields, it is surrounded by mountains, but the iconic part of Demacia are the buildings. They are made of petricite, which is a combination of stone and the magic-absorbing wood. Because these ancient magic-absorbing trees were grey, all the buildings have a marble-like appearance. And yes, given what material they are using, all the buildings in Demacia also absorb magic. So
that's pretty cool. I wonder if there's any other MMOs out there that have like no magic zones, because here it would be lore based already. Like they wouldn't be able to diverge from the lore. They would have to follow that. Most of the art is from the card game. Right, so they made a lot of extra art for the card game, yeah. It makes sense, because A card is just an instruction of how gameplay mechanics works. There's not much moving graphics in a card game, except when, you know, they animate the cards. So art would be a major focus of a card game. Definitely a bigger percentage of the focus than in a game like League of Legends, or indeed any game with fast-moving gameplay. There's really cool art in Legends. Yeah, there's really cool cinematics too, I've seen. A lot of cool cinematics, a lot of cool art.
Should a mage visit this region, let's just say it's gonna...
Is it awkward that I'm hiding his with my hair? Should I move? That's fine, right?
Be a painful experience. On top of this, let's not forget that Demacians can weaponize Petricite. They can turn it into Petricite Steel, which gives you your classic anti-magic weapons, and you can sculpt Petricite constructs which wake up after absorbing magic.
Oh?
Simply said, these...
They wake up after absorbing magic. Presumably to fight the wielder of the magic. Though, I would say that doesn't super make sense for there to be a Petricite construct that wakes up when coming in contact with magic. Because wouldn't it then be animated by magic? Which would that not make it a magical construct? But they absorb the magic, yeah. And then they fight off the magic. It's called hypocrisy. Yes, exactly. There we go. It's hypocrisy. Demacia is hypocritical. Oh, okay. I just discovered this. Turn around. What do you mean? Oh.
These guys just really don't like magic. The irony is, they've been absorbing it for years now. And this is where the story would kick in.
Oh.
You see, the Demacians are so afraid of magic, they founded the Mage Seeker Order.
So they're kind of like closet homosexuals. In that, like, they're like homophobic and everything. Homophobic just because, like, they're absorbing so much homo energy. And they're like, oh, this is bad, this is bad. Actually, they are. Right? It's kind of like that, except with magic. Secretly, they're absorbing all this magic and maybe even using it behind closed doors.
Order. This is an order of people who hunt mages, they throw them into prison, and they torture them until their body gives up on magic. So yes, being a mage is a crime in Demacia. The thing is, people still get naturally born with magical abilities. You can't stop it from happening.
Ooh.
So not only are there mages hiding in the royal court, right now there is a mage civil war happening in Demacia, where mages and people who don't hate mages rise up to fight for moral rights.
Yeah.
So should we do some
But if all the walls are absorbing magic, then how hard is it to be like a naturally aptitude born mage? Like wouldn't if you cast like a spell, the wall just be like like you're trying to like bring a cup over to your hand and then the wall's like mine or something. Do you know what I mean? Like I wonder, like it should be really hard to cast magic here, and any born baby that has magic would like not see a lot of result from their parlor tricks, I would imagine. Unless people evolve to become resistant to Petricite. Because they were born here, survival of the fittest and all that, right? They adapt. Like a virus adapts to the antidote, the antibiotics, and eventually these magic users will be the most powerful in the entire world because they were born surrounded by Petricite. Yeah, they build magic resist. I think you can cast magic, but if you hit a wall, it would just absorb it. Okay. So like if you throw a fireball through the street, then it's fine. But if it hits the wall, it turns to water. Antibiotics don't work on viruses, for real, for real. Yeah, okay, sure. I was talking about super bacteria. No, I wasn't. I meant super bacteria. I talked about virus, yes. Yeah, okay. I was talking about super bacteria that work around antibiotics. There we go.
quests in this zone, this is gonna be the core story. Mages trying to overthrow racist leadership following old laws. So the main enemy NPCs might be mages and witches. But I know what you're thinking now, and don't worry.
What are you thinking now, chat? I was actually thinking about Hearthstone, the icon on this shirt. But it's my mod's fault. How hungry I am? Okay, go eat something.
Leadership following
Thinking about third grade biology now.
old laws. so the main enemy NPCs might be mages and witches. But I know what you're thinking now.
Okay, now I know what he wants me to think. What if I want to play as a mage, right, Necrit?
And don't worry, there will be plenty of boars to kill here too. Or at least there are loads of wolves here, as well as stags. And we can't forget the iconic Demacian raptors. But further to the south we might find some crag beasts, tiny woolly elephants, and yes...
Don't kill these.
Of course, in the Argent Mountains there are also dragons. Loads and loads of dragons. But that's about it for Demacia. Fun fact, the capital city of Demacia is called the Great City of Demacia. Sounds dumb, but Runeterra was not the first one to come up with this. But thankfully the other regions are a bit dumb, but Runeterra was not the first one to come up with
It's true, isn't it? Oh, capital city. Oh, yeah.
this. But thankfully the other regions are a bit more creative with their names. So now, let's move away from the normie region and let's have a look at the badass region.
Dude, it would actually be so much fun. I hope they make it. I hope they make it. And, yeah.
Noxus.
I also always wish they make a StarCraft MMO, but I don't think WoW is that good. So I don't know if I would have played StarCraft MMO either. I think you can make it so much more fun. I feel like so many MMOs can be so much more fun if they didn't focus on wasting your time and they instead focused on giving you epic experiences. Right? Instead of like creating 150 hamster mills of grind to make you constantly busy. I feel like Guild Wars kind of respects your time. Isn't it true that Guild Wars 1 and 2, like you can leave and come back and you don't feel very behind? That's what my friend told me. He plays Guild Wars 2, but he doesn't have to play it compulsively because you come back and you don't have power loss and power creep. What did you not like about WoW? I felt like the quests felt so pointless. It was like fetch quests. Like, go get 6 shrubberies, bring them to me. Go get 10 piggies, bring them to me. Kill 6 skeletons, bring them to me. You can make quests so much more interesting. That's what I think, anyway.
If you're planning on...
If they actually make this MMO good, it may actually reignite my love for MMO. Because I just got disappointed from many MMOs I played. I'm not like, you know, a main MMO player like an Asmongold or something that... I don't even know how to judge them, right? Like, I don't have the experience and the critique, but I want it to be fun and immersive, right? I don't want to feel like the dev gave me this task to get these 5 shrubberies because fuck you, like, right? Because we want you to be busy with this. Like, there's nothing fun and challenging about it.
On playing a warrior with oversized weapons and overcompensating lush hair, this is the region for you. This place actually has a long and badass history, but we really don't have the time to explain it now. So just know that originally it was built by...
Did he say overcompensating lush hair? That's not why I have it in the air. I just don't like it on my forehead because it gets ticklish.
The most badass warrior in the history of Runeterra. This motherfucker literally died on a mountain of corpses. And
oh, it was an Asmon reference?
after he died, he was too angry to stay dead, so he just became the god of the underworld. When this guy lived, he built the Immortal Bastion, which is to this day the largest structure on the entirety of Runeterra. And currently he is banished underneath the Immortal Bastion, but only a few people know about it. So, you know, that's a future raid boss. Anyway, the Immortal Bastion is the capital city.
That's a good raid boss, because he can just keep coming back. Like, if you were to kill a Jinx or something, that would be really bad for the lore. And if you kill Vander, at least he could come back as some other creature. But certain ghoulish bosses, like Mordekaiser, you can kill them over and over and they'll come back. Yorick, like, you don't have to suspend disbelief to see them die and come back over and over.
Of the Noxian Empire, with Noxus being one of the most brutal nations in Runeterra. It is brutal because the nation is surrounded by rocky earth. It is hard to grow plants here, so Noxians are forced into conquering surrounding land for resources to survive. That's why when you go to the map you can notice that the Noxian territory is all over the place. It's because these are all the places Noxus has already conquered. Although, when I say it like that, you may imagine Noxus brutally raiding everything.
I wonder, right? Are Noxus so good at seafaring? It looks like it, right? Like, it looks like they are like inspired by Vikings, since they possess so much of the coastal area. You would think that they are like the best seafarers, all the way across the water here, and in several parts in Ionia, and in several parts here on Shurima. What is confusing is, why is this part not in their control, and this part? How come if they can get all this, wouldn't they be able to get this? I would just get this as well. Wouldn't you get it? The MMO is dead. What do you mean? Don't say that. We don't know that, do we? Yorick is not ghoulish, he's a good guy. Right, but his wife keeps coming back. They do have influence in Piltover, maybe just not full control. Yeah, it's
Over the place. It's because these are all the places Noxus has already conquered. Although, when I say it like that, you may imagine Noxus brutally raiding everything. But that's not true. They like to absorb the surrounding nations into their empire. After all, it's just more human resources. Most of the time, they only remove the royalty and they let the leaderless people join their empire. And that's because Noxus values strength above all. And rulers tend to not be good.
These are Legends of Runeterra animations, I imagine. Same style as Arcane, very nice.
Fighters. This is what you can see in the After Victory cinematic. They killed the king because he was weak and let everyone else join them. Fun fact, conquering nations is so iconic for Noxus, they have their own saying. Kill them until they are family. So when it comes to the quests in Noxus, it is most likely going to be helping the Empire expand its territory.
So they take kill, marry, snog very literally.
Although this region has its own unique enemies too. Inside the Immortal Bastion there is a cult known as the Black Rose. This cult is connected to the darkest of magics. So be ready to fight Hemomancers, witches, demons, and the Grey Legion, which is an army of soldiers revived with blood magic to fight for the Empire again.
Is blood magic the darkest? This is blood magic, it's red. But when he spoke of the darkest magic, it was purple, so that's void magic then, right?
This cult is connected to the darkest of magics. So be ready to fight Hemomancers.
What's going on here? This is red. This is blood magic. What's she doing to her? I wonder. Blood magic comes from the dark and
witches.
And what's going on here?
Demons and the Grey Legion.
That didn't seem that bad, that magic. That didn't seem dark to me.
Which is an army of soldiers revived with blood magic to fight for the Empire again. And when it comes to collecting 10 bear asses, here we have the native Drakehounds and Basilisks.
10 bear
now,
asses.
while Noxus and Demacia are the main rivals here, both of them are also constantly repelling raids from the north. So now, let's have a look at the Freljord. Just like pretty much any region on
Harsh frozen land. Governance. Tribal matriarchy. Level of tech. Low. Attitude towards magic. Venerate. Oh, so they love it. General environment. Icy tundra. I'd love magic that can make fire too if it was that cold. Demigods walk the earth and the people are born warriors. While there are many individual tribes, the three greatest are the Avarosans, the Winner's Claw and the Frostguard, each uniquely shaped by their will to survive. It is also the only place on Runeterra where true ice can be found. What's true ice, like a kind of drug?
On Runeterra, Freljord has a long history. But for the purpose of this video, just know that the maddening old gods know
It's never melting ice, super ice, and it can be made into weapons. Oh. Huh. I didn't know that true ice never melts. Is it like those TikTok videos where they put a torch to the snow, which then evaporates into vapor? And then they're like, the government's lying to us. Look, it's not turning to water. This snow is fucking fake. It's like exactly like that. Okay, so that's what true ice is like. Got it.
known as the Watchers of the Void, who want to devour the entire reality only because it keeps waking them up, once tried to breach into reality here. They almost succeeded because they tricked the Ice Witch Lysandra into helping them. Fortunately, she realized how wrong she was, and she managed to freeze half of the kingdom with the Watchers still beneath them.
Oh my god.
So these days, the Ice Witch is the only person holding back the end of reality by keeping the Watchers frozen.
Very capable, Lysandra. Good judgment, didn't get scammed for too long, and then reverse Uno'd on them, and is now the custodian of reality?
The Ice Witch is the only person holding back the end of reality by
she's the custodian of reality by keeping out surrealism. What a chat.
keeping the Watchers frozen. So at some point in the future, you bet one of these woken up frozen Watchers is gonna be a raid boss. Now, when it comes to the NPCs, this is where things get diverse. First of all, remember that the Freljord is brutally cruel. Everything is frozen, and survival is everything. So the first enemy here would be the wildlife. From Rimefangs to Yetis, to Druvasks, to Elnuks, to Mammoths, to the worst of them all, Poros. Next we are going to fight the Freljordians themselves. There are three main tribes here. The Avarosans, who are quite peaceful, the Winter's Claw, who are quite brutal, and the Frostguard, Lysandra's followers who hold back the Watchers. And let me tell you, these guys have some badass armor.
I'm trying to think, what do these look like? Hammerhead shark. They look like hammerhead sharks. And I feel like I've seen similar depictions in some other shows, but I can't invoke where it came from now. I don't remember. Yeah, ring wraiths. That's probably kind of what they look. Yeah, okay, sure. Ring wraiths, faceless void. True. Yeah, this one looks like faceless void. This looks like a Nazgul.
The Watchers. And let me tell you, these guys have some badass armor. Among the notable tribes, there are also the Ursine, which are shamans who worship the Volibear, the primal god of the wild who slowly turns his worshippers into twisted animalistic monstrosities. Speaking of which, his worshippers into twisted animalistic...
Is this made with an early version of ChatGPT or like Midjourney or something? Is this like early AI generation? Because this is exactly what that looked like. It probably isn't, because I think it would be a bad look for them or something. Even though I think it's fine to make art with AI, but that's a different story. But it looks like an accidental second mouth. Because wouldn't this one harm the infrastructure of the lower jaw, the middle jaw? Like, that would really hurt if he bites down on here. But I guess since it's a monstrosity, it doesn't matter. More mouths to feed. There is a reason. They all fight themselves in the arena. There's a lore reason why they all fight themselves in the arena? What arena? Like, do you mean like, why are they fighting in League of Legends? The original meaning was just summoners, which is you, fight other summoners, which is me, to settle differences by using all these champions. A thin reason, but since then they've been hard at work to build the story.
Monstrosities.
And that's no longer the lore.
Speaking of which, yes, there are also the primal gods of Freljord. And finally, we need to talk about the Iceborn. When the Watchers tried to arrive here, they tainted the ice around them. This special ice is called the True Ice. And it is so dangerous, you literally die if you touch it. However, the Watchers also tainted some people, giving them the ability to touch the ice. It is still extremely painful for them to hold a true ice weapon.
Oh, I remember when we watched one of those other videos. He explained this. They were holding like a weapon, maybe an axe or something, and then he was saying it should really, really hurt to hold it, but you can only semi-see it in that cinematic. Sejuani, yeah. She did have a scream like this. Remember, she made this face. It was even in this video somewhere.
At least they can survive it. Yeah. These people are known as the Iceborn. But people were not the only things that were tainted. There are also ice trolls, some of whom are also Iceborn. To be honest, these guys were made to have their own dungeon. But there are also some animals that were twisted by the Watchers. And Lysandra is even twisting some beings herself to make them serve her. So overall, Freljord is gonna have a lot of cool warriors, shamans, and horrors. So these would be the 3 regions on the main continent.
Ooh.
But this place is actually so big it can easily make the base world of the game. Especially since there are a bunch of smaller regions in between them. There is Noxus, full of witches, Argent Mountains with their dragons.
Wait, where's Noxus? Let's see.
There is Noxus.
Old Bargate, Everpeak, Rakelstake, Drugne, the Argent Mountains.
Full of witches, Argent Mountains.
If it's full of witches, are those witches all female? Would it be like a place almost entirely of females doing magic? Because normally a witch is female, right? Not male. Why are you asking? I'm asking, how are little witches born if it's all females? Or can they just do like what the seahorse does with magic? I assume so. One male is enough. True. But who's it gonna be? Who will do this responsibility? I live there. Oh, I see. I see. Wild shaking. That's good. That's good. Okay. Mystery solved.
With their dragons, Tokugo with void
Oh yeah, they have a special magic called lesbomancy, and that's how they get their babies. Good.
monsters, Dalamore Plains with him, and so much more. But from here, you can cleverly set up...
Question. Sorry, question. If Riot actually made this MMO, and they had this witch region, and they created a magic called lesbomancy, how much trouble would they be in from, you know, activists? Or would it just be like cool and wacky? Twitter would be on fire, but I think people would love it, actually.
up the expansions because of how well everything is interconnected. So now, let's have a look at the continent to the east called Ionia. Ionia has a very close connection to Noxus. You can only guess why. It's because Noxians once tried to conquer it all during an event simply called the Invasion of Ionia. This was a horrible war full of using children as soldiers because Noxians thought Ionians wouldn't fight back against children.
I think this makes sense for multiple reasons. One is that maybe they won't fight back, and two, it's cheaper. You don't have to invest as much, right? You don't have to feed it for as long. Now, from a moral perspective, I do find it reprehensible, but purely from efficiency as a fighter, I think it makes sense.
And chemical weapons. Lots and lots of chemical weapons.
Again, makes sense, but you do set the precedent for both of these, that you are now creating a norm. By being so creative and efficient, you're creating a norm that later down the line, when someone else brings the fire to your shins, right, they start waging war on you, they're going to use those strategies too. It's like when you ping or BM someone in Dota 2, next time they have the edge over you, you cringe in anticipation of those same methods. It's like, oh no, he's going to ping me back, isn't he? So, yeah, you got to wonder, will we crush them entirely? Or is there a chance we lose or we have a standoff or a ceasefire? Then, in that case, you shouldn't use as reprehensible methods. Remind us not to put you in charge. Well, it depends. If you have total victory, like Ender in Ender's game, then it's fine, whatever methods you used. How many of 10-year-olds would be needed to defeat me in a fight? It depends. When I was like 16 or 18, I had a nephew. I still have a nephew. He's actually, I say nephew, but that's the Dutch way of saying it. He's actually my same generational cousin. So it's not really a nephew. It's not a generation later, right? But he's like 8 years younger. And I think I always play fight with him. But I think when I was like 16 and he was 8, or when I was 18 and he was 10, something like that, he started to have the edge. Because he's a chunky guy. He was strong. And I don't actually defeat a lot of people in melee combat in real life. So I think I stopped play fighting with him when I was 18 because I could see the tipping points coming in like a year or two. So I didn't want to suffer the 20v12 defeat. So how many 10-year-olds does it take? I think 3 could do it if they're like naturally strong, you know, genetically strong. The unfair genetic lottery victory. I think 3 10-year-olds. Answer truthfully, would you rather utilize children or chemicals in war? I would rather not have any war in the whole world. I vouch for world peace. But in a hypothetical universe where we fought a dehumanized alien huge threat, where I have to minimize human suffering, even if I make some suffering happen, of course, I would rather use chemicals still, because that doesn't use any creatures. And aliens wouldn't care about whether we use children or not, because they don't care about our morals. So I would say chemicals would make more sense.
Speaking of which, remember Singed from Arcane? He's the guy who chemically devastated Ionia. Eventually, Noxus failed, but they kept their small controlled territories. So the first quest here could be simply boarding a ship.
This ship looks freaking cool. This one of them Noxan dreadnoughts. If they build something that looks this cool, I don't think they can be wrong. I'm with Noxus.
Sailing over and exploring the place for the Noxian Empire. Now, when it comes to Ionia itself, the place gets mystical. Everything here is alive and connected to the spirit of nature. And I mean everything, from the animals to the people to the buildings. Everything is alive. So if you anger Mother Nature, your house can twist and strangle you in your sleep. So you can only imagine how Mother Nature fought against Noxians.
It's kind of interesting because Noxians have this. You see this plating. This pauldron is, by the way, super inflexible. This is a very interesting looking pauldron. It protects a very small part of her body. Other parts are rather more exposed. But then she'll probably try to turn her left shoulder to, you know, enemy weaponry. She's got a huge weapon, very heavy for her build. I would say he's actually got the neck protection, but you can see how very unfortunately it would have covered important areas of her body had she used a similar. So she's going with the more airy, just a normal clothing scarf. Yeah. But anyway, when you look at all the materials that the Noxians built, like this ship.
So the first quest.
It's very industrial. It's like Saruman's subjugation of his surroundings in Lord of the Rings. Very smoke and fire and metal and very, for the most part, unartistic. Artistic in its shape, but not in its color. So it's kind of like the dichotomy between nature and industry.
So you can only imagine.
So they're definitely not living in harmony with the land.
Imagine how Mother Nature fought against Noxians.
Yeah.
Usually a river came alive to drown them. That's why all the buildings here look like they were woven from wood. It's because they were. With nature magic, people let nature build their houses. It also means that sometimes your house can just walk away. When it comes to the NPCs here, obviously there is gonna be a lot of nature spirits. And a lot.
How's that for a house in crisis?
More of simply mystical animals. From giant flying tigers to the never-ending story. But be ready to also face local Ionians, Blade Masters.
This actually happened in the Netherlands recently. Your house just walking away. A woonboot is a living boat, something you live in. But it is a boat that is essentially rooted in one place, not actual roots, but, you know, adhesive, with an anchor and bolts to the shore and stuff. It's in a river or a canal, but you live there. So you do have the sensation of stepping off the land into a little, you know, onto the boat, but it is suspended over the water. But you can't really go places. It's not meant for it to be a vessel of naval transportation. So woonboot is something that's pretty common in the Netherlands, living on a boat and having it be a permanent residence. Usually it's smaller. It's not going to be like a mansion size, right? But recently, as is a common theme in the Netherlands, we had floods in certain rivers. A couple of years ago, we actually had a flood scare where we live. And 30 years ago, there was actually a flood all the way to the house where we... But anyway, this is a common theme in the Netherlands, and there were some woonboats, some living houses, some boat houses carried away in the river. So their house actually moved away. How do they poop? I believe through their the usual means. Yeah, they're not like mutated water people or something that poop through their gills. Through their usual way, the bunghole, which is also a nautical term.
Shadow cultists, murderers, and ninjas. Both good, bad, and the in-between. But finally, there is also one more enemy that we could face.
Cinderella?
The furries. That's right, this race is known as the Vastaya. They are half humans and half magical animals. And yes, canonically, the species was born in exactly the way you are thinking. But to be fair, the Vastaya are quite cool. In exactly the way. And yes, the Vastaya. They are half humans and half magical animals. And
oh, I get it. Oh, okay. The humans and the magical... yeah, okay.
yes, canonically, the species was born in exactly the way you are thinking. But to be fair, the Vastaya are quite cool and they are definitely gonna be a playable race. Just like Yordles, who also like Ionia a lot. Lastly, after Noxians ravaged Mother Nature, demons started occupying all the places filled with misery and doubt. So that's gonna be a nice bonus enemy. So yes, the exploration of Ionia and the raid on the Shadow Order could be a really cool first expansion. But
explains why I've never seen a demon.
But it's definitely not Riot's only option, because we can also go south to Piltover and Zaun. These are the ones people will know about, simply because this is where Arcane took place. Piltover and Zaun are two massive cities located one above the other. And they are so massive they could easily be turned into their own playable zones. They are both focusing on futuristic technology powered up by magic of the Hextech gemstones. Using this magic they can power up anything from guns to augmented limbs to vehicles. Visually it is simply futuristic Victorian era. And unfortunately there wouldn't be much of enemy variety. We would likely fight the rich houses of Piltover and their deadly assassins, with the occasional thief on the streets, corrupt wardens, and the occasional rogue steam golem. But things get a bit more interesting in the undercity known as Zaun. Zaun is the dirty underbelly covered in thick toxic smoke. Because the majority of people are poor here, they developed a cheaper alternative to Hextech called Chemtech. This artificial green stuff can power up cheaper limb replacements, as well as highly unstable weaponry. Zaun is also controlled by the Chem Barons, which are obviously gonna be the main enemy here. But on the side, we may also meet some chemical mutants, unstable constructs, as well as some mass murderers and people who hunt down mass murderers. And funnily enough, at the very bottom of Zaun itself, there are the hidden ruins of an ancient city full of traps. That is obviously gonna be a cool dungeon. So yes, there is not much more that I can add here. Piltover and Zaun.
Is this Vi? No. Not every pink-haired girl is Vi, right? She looks a little different here. Old Vi. Yeah, here she looks what, let's say, most traditional, what used to be known as most traditionally a feminine woman who is hetero. And then later on, it's not Vi, it's at 6. Really? Wait, what? Where does it say 6? I'm not saying that's what you need to look like, right? And then in the show, different traditional look associated with different sexuality.
Where simply explored.
I don't see 6. Where do you guys see 6? What are you looking at?
Explored in Arcane. So if you like the series, you are gonna like this place. From here, we can travel further south to Shurima. Shurima used to be a massive empire that ruled the world. But after the emperor got betrayed by his best friend, the entire empire collapsed. This region is a massive desert with the occasional city near a river. In the center of the region there is the Sun Disk, a colossal piece of star metal that has the power to reflect celestial magic. The Shurimans use this celestial magic to turn their best soldiers into the Ascended, also known as the Golden God Warriors. However, these God Warriors wouldn't make a great enemy here. That's because after the Emperor had died, the Ascended started fighting for leadership. And slowly, after learning how to use blood magic to gain the edge, they morphed their own bodies and became the Darkin. Twisted, blood-frenzied monsters that would certainly make really cool raid bosses. Besides this ancient evil, Shurima is also full of its own animals, raiders, dune scavengers.
Any magical animals?
And on top of all of that, void creatures.
Ooh.
That's because to the south there used to be a kingdom known as Ikathia that wanted to destroy the Shuriman Empire. So they asked the Watchers for help. You can imagine how that went. The Watchers sent through some void beasts that consumed Ikathia and polluted Shurima to this day. To fight back the void, Shurima does have a lot of hidden tombs around with hidden god warrior weapons. Not to mention that Shurima also has a circle of time mages who are trying to freeze the void in time. Now, as I mentioned near the beginning of the video, even if Shurima becomes an expansion,
I love these helmets. I like how it looks.
they can still easily make Shurimans a playable race because they are already connected to Noxus. As you can see, of course, Noxians already conquered part of Shurima, so some Shurimans are fighting for Noxus. Also, as a cool fact, for those of you who liked Arcane, Hex Crystals
I liked Arcane.
are harvested in Shurima. That's why a Shuriman expansion would be a great
Kind of like Dune. Very sandy place with very precious natural resource, right? It's like Dune.
follow-up to Piltover and Zaun. And again, that's why Riot can easily turn only the northern continent into the base world. Anyway, going west from Shurima, we arrive at Mount...
I like how you can tell that he's dragging the map with his mouse, because it's kind of irregular. It actually adds a bit of charm knowing that it's not like a professional fan. Yeah, look at it.
into the base world. Anyway, going west from Shurima, we arrive at Mount Targon. This place is incredibly unique. First of all, this mountain is not natural. It was literally pulled up from the ground by celestial gods.
Maui.
And that's because this place serves as a portal to the celestial realm, also known as Targon Prime. Now, because this mountain was pulled up, it also has some unique features. For example, you may find frozen lakes frozen horizontally on the mountain. And the very peak of the mountain is special too. Should a mortal reach the peak, despite the brutal climate and the dead too,
I can't get over how good these hands look like from the cinematic.
should a mortal reach the peak, despite the brutal climate and the deadly wildlife,
Much better than
either
the face.
they die from exhaustion, or the celestial gods deem them worthy and
Very kissable hands. Yeah, I would hold hands with those.
they become an ascended aspect. There is aspect of war, aspect of the sun, aspect of the moon, aspect of the twilight, aspect of the guardian, and so on. Simply aspect of the moon, aspect of the twilight, aspect of the guardian.
This guy looks like the male protagonist sidekick of a girl cinematic. He looks like the boyfriend of someone in Frozen. Fabio. Like, he's got the Zoolander look, but he doesn't have the intensity in his eyes to be the main character. He's like the hot side hunk. Tarek?
And
His name is Tarek? Oh, it's Fabio. Fabio.
so on. Simply said, after people reach the peak, they become some of the
He's like gay Arthas. If you told me that's what he was, I would believe it. He doesn't have to be. You can be sensitive and beautiful without being gay. Not that there's anything wrong with any of it.
strongest beings on the entire planet. So of course, the mountain is full of people who worship the celestial demigods. And I speculate
he's
this
gay?
is where we could get a lot of cool armor sets. There are the Solari, who are devoted to the aspect of the sun. Then there are their rivals, the Lunari, who are
He's Tariq and he's Fabio now, okay.
devoted to the aspect of the moon. But also the tribe I assume will become a playable class, the Warriors of Rakor. Of course, besides just humans, Targon also has all sorts of furry Vastaya. Near the bottom of the mountain you may notice
Oh, look at this doggy. So cute.
Targon also has all sorts of furry Vastaya. Near the bottom of the mountain you may notice that the mountain is alive. But also there are Stellarcorns, a variety of mind-bending creatures, and loads of dragons. Speaking of which, remember that this place is linked to the Celestial Realm. So this is where we may also meet the star-forging celestial dragon Aurelian Soul, as well as all sorts of other celestial beings. A lot of these would make for interesting bosses.
How come many of these so-called celestial beings have such a hideously ugly face that seems, which I think by the way looks awesome, but also very much like Alien in the movie Alien? Like, how come it seems so geared towards horrendously ripping flesh from bone, or crushing the bone indeed? Like, why have a predatory face? Do they really need to eat humans and dragons and stuff? Is that how they sustain? That's the Baron. This is Nashor. They probably think humans are ugly. Oh, true. True. They eat planets, they enjoy it. Yeah, maybe. Maybe Celestia have different beauty standards. Look, I think they look awesome, but like, this is a predatory face. That's what I'm saying. This is no cute rabbit, right? This is meant to devour things. I'm curious about how Celestials live day to day. Like, what's their 24-hour schedule look like?
In fact, the ascension of Mount Targon would be a really cool raid. Next, on the other side of Shurima, there is Ixtal. This is a special place where people are mastering the elemental magic. They are using it for everything: fishing, smithing, walking, and this place is definitely gonna be saved for an expansion. Basically, remember when Icathian,
the Hanging Gardens of Babylon,
asked the Watchers for help? And then that happened? Ixtal was their neighbor, and after they saw the Void devour an entire kingdom, they believed the Void would soon devour the entire world. So, using their elemental magic, Ixtal built massive walls of plants around their entire region, isolating themselves from the rest of the world. For 3,500 years, Ixtal stayed isolated, believing that the world outside of their walls was devoured by the Void.
Ooh, like Attack on Titans.
But now, very recently, some mages found out that the world outside is completely fine. So now, the Ixtali mages are slowly revealing themselves. To be honest, Ixtal is the most underdeveloped region in Runeterra. We know the region has a lot of hunting Vastaya, deadly plants and some elemental dragons, but most of the region is still a mystery to us. So at least here, Riot will have the freedom to try something new. But now, we leave the main continent to visit the last two regions. First of all, there is Bilgewater. If you like pirate adventures, this is gonna be your place. This is where we are going to explore inns and gambling dens, even some local temples worshipping the god of motion, Nagake Boros. Here we are going to fight pirates and sea monsters, sea witches, sea Vastaya, maybe some demons. And possibly we'll side with Sarah Fortune to fight the king of the pirates, Gangplank. But there's a lot more here. Last year, Riot released their RPG, which was set in Bilgewater.
What's this? Is this Riot Forge? Is this a Riot Forge game? Oh, this is the Ruined King. It's a nice game. It's a very good game. Nice. And is it still playable despite Riot Forge closing? It's a single-player RPG. How many hours to finish it? I love finishing RPGs, single-player RPGs. Played on hardest, took about 30 hours. I see.
So not only can we already...
Here it is. Very positive. Oh, not a lot of people played it and reviewed it. 2 years old. It looks cool. I think it'd be fun.
Explore this place in detail, but it even has a monster journal. And at a quick glance, you can already see some really cool bosses too. However, this place is also linked to the last place I want to show you today, the Shadow Isles. See, every year the horrors of the Shadow Isles lurk out, and Bilgewater just happens to be the closest place. So every year, Bilgewater is fighting the undead. Once upon a time, the Shadow Isles used to be the Blessed Isles, a rich place full of advanced magic. Long story short, there was a young asshole king who wanted to revive his dead queen.
A young what?
Magic. Long story short, there was a young asshole king.
A young king, yeah. The automated subtitles decided to leave it out. Is it asshole? E-Z-H-O-L?
Who wanted to revive his dead queen.
Oh, I heard it right? Oh, okay.
Process, he accidentally released dark necromantic magic. This magic destroyed the island and made it home for undeath. In the lore, this event is called the Ruination. And because the RPG is called the Ruined King, it may not be a surprise to you that you also get to explore the Shadow Isles there. And there they have anything you can imagine. Undead horrors creeping everywhere. And should we ever venture into these islands, I have no idea whom we're going to fight. The Ruined King who caused all of this is banished elsewhere. Yeah. Thresh, who siphoned his magic after he was banished, also left the Isles. And even Hecarim, the most brutal soldier of them all, is currently around Demacia. So the Shadow Isles don't currently have a main baddie. So this is where Riot could push forward some of the side characters. Now, even though these have all been the regions that are currently set up on Runeterra, Riot has already confirmed that there is a new continent further to the east. Currently, it is planned to be revealed in the upcoming Ruination novel. And so far, we know that this new continent is where the ruined King Viego is from. And this is also where he was banished at the end of his story. All we know about that place is that it is quite mystical. There are yet more dragons here, and in fact, Kamavor, which is the Ruined King's nation, has a lot of draconic armor. So should Riot run out of places to explore, don't worry, they can always make up more. But that's all I wanted to show you today. As someone who's been following the lore of League of Legends from the very beginning, I can tell you, I'm very confident the setting of Riot's MMO is gonna be great. Their incredible writers have been preparing the world for years now. And now, it's time to harvest the fruit. If you like this video, let me know in the comments below. Because right now, I still have 3 more topics that I could talk about in regards to the MMO. I especially want to talk about the potential raid bosses we can face, and the potential classes we could play. And as someone who has collected an unholy amount of transmog, I would love to show you all the cool armor sets this universe has. But that's it for this video. See you in 6 to 8 years when the MMO gets released.
Oh god. Alright, how accurate is that? I have forefront of journalism here, .esports. Everything we know about Riot's new League of Legends MMORPG from January 3rd, 2024. And they say... When do they say it could be coming? The Runeterra expansion isn't slowing down either. That aged poorly. Arcane Season 2 is well on its way. Riot devs are working on an MMO title. The game is still a ways off. But when is it coming? Riot has yet to lock in an official release date, though a late 2025 or even early 26 looks likely, considering when development began behind the scenes. So the 6 years window, I guess. In 2020, Riot talked about it. 4 year, 5 year, not out of the question. Mark Merrill in 2023 said... He gave a few details about the game's development. He claimed it's a project he's the most invested in, and the team is trying to do it right, though it's a very hard thing. He acknowledged there's lots to do. It's a complex project and the bar is very high. Therefore, we can assume that a release date sooner than 25 seems unlikely. Yeah, so it could be many years out, but I'm excited about it. But I'm not going to burn up with excitement because it could be so far away. But it's really cool to get this look.